to the cloud. Okay. You here? Can you hear
I'm
me?
here.
All right.
There we go. Are we like next to each other?
Yes.
Okay, good. Because that's how it'll record.
Yes, yeah. No, we don't want me to be the main face here.
Uh, what? You look so pretty today with your little sweater.
But we have to see the full outfit here because I've got these pants that don't really match. And I think in particular, the bright socks and the red slippers.
Yeah, what is that? A yellow? Is that a neon yellow?
Yes.
Or a lime green?
The red slippers. Looking good. Hello, Swole Sisters worldwide.
Worldwide. What's up?
Because the internet, although we love it and makes so many things possible, it also sucks sometimes.
Just doesn't work sometimes.
Yeah. So today we're going to talk about motivation.
Yeah, I'm excited.
How to do motivation.
Yeah, and I think it's so important because, so often we're putting out like nutrition advice and workouts and all of this. And I can imagine some people out there are like, yeah, but what if just getting to the thing is the problem, right? Like, because if you think about it, that decision to get up and do the thing, that's really like the first part. It doesn't really matter so much like if, you have this great workout plan or this great meal idea or whatever, if you're not able or like, if you don't have what it takes to get up and do the thing doesn't really matter, right? It's like, it's not really of much consequence.
Yeah, knowledge is not often not the problem. Sometimes it is.
Occasionally.
Yeah.
But in the age of the internet, I think that one thing it really does prove is that, all the information is just right at our fingertips all the time. So, yeah, I think when we talk about people having a hard time getting a handle on their fitness, wellness, and all of that, there's something else holding us back. And that's what we're going to kind of talk about today.
All right. You're still freezing up, Justine.
I know. So are you. But I don't think it'll record that way.
Oh, really? Okay.
It'll smooth itself out on the recording.
Oh, Zoom recording.
And we'll just have to re-record, which is whatever.
So we wanted to talk about, like, when it comes to motivation, language being important first, right?
Yeah, words matter. And that goes for your inner monologue as well as the words coming out of your mouth. And I think it's a pretty common trope kind of that you've heard when you were, probably a kid that comes up again and again in positive psychology, which is like, would you say what you're saying to yourself? Would you say that to your best friend? Would you say that to your kid or your partner? Which is might seem like this oversimplified way of looking at it, but I still think that rings very true, that we should extend the same, compassion, understanding, and benefit of the doubt that most of us, not all of us all the time, have for other people, for ourselves as well. Like if your best friend came up to you and said, hey, like I, was feeling really down yesterday, I ended up buying like, a cake and I ate half the cake. It's not like you would be like, you're disgusting, I'm so ashamed of you, how could you do this? Like, no one's going to love you. Like, good God, like no one, you would, but, when we do these things, ourselves, if we are the ones that go buy the cake and, have that cake, oftentimes there is a, monsoon of negative self-talk that comes out of that. And that really shapes not just our inner landscape, but also what we're able to, everything's coming from the inside, right? So what we're able to give and do, and the actions we take are shaped from, that inner landscape that we're creating with our inner monologue.
This is all very true. And What were we gonna start with first? Like flip the script idea? Was that what we wanted to talk about first?
Yeah, I like that idea. I think you mentioned too that just like, again, very common, this isn't all brand new ideas here, but just awareness and noticing is so important, because so much of this inner monologue, it's not like you're trying to say these things to yourself, right? It's probably a dialogue that started years, decades ago, and it's kind of bubbling under the surface. Maybe it's not like a voice like, hey, you're an idiot, right? It's not like that, right? It might just be this kind of low level, kind of right under the surface. It's kind of there, that kind of, and that is the most insidious, because it's not in your face, right? It's just this kind of constant negative self-talk, self-doubt, right? It doesn't necessarily have to be you're an idiot, right? It could just be like, are you sure you want to do that? What if you fail? Like, what if you, right? It's like, it could just be that little whispering. So just the first step really is just, can you hear that in yourself, right? Like that, like, do you have the ability to quiet yourself and be like, oh yeah, like there is this little part of me that has a lot of fear around that, or you know what I mean?
Yes, absolutely. So the noting it is the first thing, and there are some words you can watch out for too. I think watching out for words like should, can't, have to, need to, those kind of words. Like, and one thing that I think that Girls Gone Strong does this, and I really love it, is when you have a sentence and there's a but in there, changing it to an and.
Oh my God. So, that's what I did in my Flip the Script.
Oh, did you? That's so funny. So I was thinking of myself and my nutrition habits at the moment. And one thing I could say is I want to eat healthy, but I feel like having pizza and I feel like having treats. And I can flip that switch, or blah, blah, blah. Flip the script, and I could say I want to eat healthy and I want to eat treats. Both those things are true, and my solution to that is that I'm not going to necessarily exclude things, but I'm going to make sure that I eat fruits and vegetables with every meal. And for the past 3 weeks, that has been on my daily goal, is to eat a serving of fruit or vegetable with every meal, and I'm still eating pizza. Yeah, I'm okay with that, because I get to do both the things.
I really like what you said about those kind of like if you're having a hard time hearing those voices, right? Just like those kind of phrases to look out for. And I want to add to it absolute terms like always, never. Those are also, if you hear those are ones too that we can also say, if you're saying a lot of that out loud, also most likely that's in the inner monologue as well. So if you find yourself saying things like, oh, I could never do that, or I always mess it up, or I couldn't, whatever. It's like that. I love that, because I think that's something that I should work on myself now that we're talking about it, because I think I do that.
And the thing that we were talking about, Byron Katie, and I haven't read her stuff a ton, but I've heard this a bunch. She has these 4 questions. And one of the questions is that true? And you can just stop right there. You always, you always sleep in. Is that true? And what is sleeping in, So
totally.
Yeah. So
yeah, I love that. So I'll share I did my homework, Jen, too. I came up with
A+. Good job.
So I think too, before I even say mine, one of the cool things about flipping the script and what Jen and I are kind of talking about is like taking one of those commonly held limiting beliefs that we have and changing it around, flipping it on its head, to instead of taking it from being a negative limiting belief to how do you open it up and create a and have it be a statement that has like possibility, hope, right? And not like you can't do it, but like you definitely can do it. And it's great. So the one that I wrote was I did like examples. I didn't do like personal ones. So I did like examples of what I thought, what I've heard like clients say and stuff. So it's not really my own thing, although at some point I'm sure it was.
Come on, Justine, be vulnerable, cheese.
So I want to eat healthier, but I don't know anything about nutrition.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote, I want to eat healthier and I want to start learning one new healthy meal idea each week.
Yeah, that and it just like opens up your world. That's crazy. Changing an and a but to an and.
Yeah, and I think oftentimes we've talked about this in past episodes. The reason that we can feel frozen in place and not motivated, right, is because we might be making the thing we want to do just way too complicated and enormous in our own minds. That's probably what's happening if you find yourself, oh, I can't, oh no, I can't do that, right? So if you're in your mind, you're like, oh, well, I couldn't possibly, work out every day. Like I can't do that. Well, I want to work out and I'm going to start small in ways that fit into my schedule. So maybe that's 10, 15 minutes every morning, right? Like, so that's really the thing. It's like break down that thing, that goal, that whatever it is you want. If it seems overwhelming, then you need to break it down until it's in a serving size, pun intended, right, that you can handle mentally.
Yes. Yeah, I had another idea for a flip the script of a common thing. I'm too out of shape to start working out. So that's a point where maybe you feel overwhelmed. It seems too much because you look at somebody else on social media and they're doing some crazy exercise and you're just like, yeah, I'm too out of shape. Look at these people doing all this stuff. And to flip that would be, I am out of shape. That's okay to say. And that means that I can start really small and see big results from those small steps. Mm-hmm. I had a client today and we were doing split squats and she was like, and we were doing body weight split squats for 6 reps. So say that 5 times fast. And she used to be doing them with weight, with pulses at the bottom, just more complicated versions. And she was kind of moaning about that. I was like, hey, we have so many places to go here since we're starting at the most basic version. That means that you have so much progress that you can make. Progress gets harder when you get fitter. Like when you want to add 10 pounds to your squat every week when you first start out, that's no problem. Yeah. You start to get more fit and you're like, this week I can't even add weight. I got to take it off. So, appreciating beginner gains. That's another way to flip that switch.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think just reframing, the things that we want, like one thing that came up for me when you were just telling that story is like that idea of like, I want to work out, but I'm not in shape. And it's like, well, what does working out mean to you? It's like, and just like taking a second to be like, oh, well, I guess in my mind, I'm picturing like P90X, like people, okay, mm-hmm. Well, is there other kinds of exercise that exist? Absolutely. Right. So just digging even just a little bit deeper into this stuff is just so incredibly helpful. And that kind of brings us to a few other questions that Jen, you had brought up. And I think this is the same woman that you mentioned earlier about, we talk about like the opposite of motivation. We talk about like laziness, right? Like a lot of people are like, oh, I'm too lazy, or like that person's lazy because they're not, doing the thing. And I don't believe in laziness. I mean, I know that there are people who have trouble like doing the thing, but to me, that's completely fear-based. People who, don't go for things generally have like a fear of failure or a fear of change, and digging into that. And one of the questions that Jen mentioned was, what's bad about changing? Which sounds like such a funny question, but it's really interesting.
Yeah. And on the same, other side of that coin, what's good about not changing? So it kind of makes you realize like, oh, so let's see if, for example, I like to watch TV until like midnight. So what's bad about changing. I wouldn't get to see, the 17th episode of Community that I was watching. I'd miss out on that.
God damn, you and my brother in Community. I just am not into that show, and he's like obsessed with it.
I just started it. It's pretty good. So, and then you can kind of realize like, oh, what am I really giving up here? Maybe it's not that big of a deal.
Okay, counter argument.
Yeah.
Counter argument is like for me when I wanted to stop drinking, and I don't know, like there for me, was a fear around, okay, what's bad about not drinking or, changing, in this case, not drinking. For me was like loss of, social connectedness, loss of, Sonny's got his noise canceling headphones on.
He has no idea how loud.
He literally cannot hear me, and he doesn't realize how loud he's being. It's hilarious, like banging around the kitchen. Anyway, but yeah, like a loss of social, and that's important to keep in mind, because positive change, let's say, that you are, you're having some health issues, your doctor says, hey, you could really benefit from losing 20 pounds. It's like, okay, well, what's bad about that? I mean, come on. But it is tough. You have a family, people have expectations of you, and violating expectations is not something that humans want to do. We don't want to make people uncomfortable. And there is a level of like, hey, like you get to come grab a beer. Oh, actually, like, got to get my steps in. Like, I'm going to go for a walk. And people aren't going to, oh, good for you. You're going for a walk? That's great. I mean, a lot of people are going to be like, dude, seriously? Like, come on, like, let's go grab a beer. Like, you can walk later, right? I mean, there is a lot of, a lot of nuance that goes into just like changing your own habits that you think like, whatever, it's my business. What does anybody else care? But like, there's a lot of social pressure that goes into all this stuff.
Yeah, and it's okay to look at those fears. I think that's a good start. All of this is like awareness. Instead of just throwing your hands up in the air, starting to really really look at it and look at your reasons for not changing and your reasons for changing.
Yes.
And then when we were talking about starting small, one of my favorite questions, and I always like to ask my clients this before we start a new habit, is on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being like, heck no, 10 being like, let's do this, I'm in. How confident are you that you can do this habit every day or the time that you want to do it? Not like how much do you want to, but how confident in reality are you? And if it's below an 8, that is not the habit for you.
Yeah.
You're like, it's a 6, like, don't try that habit.
Yeah. Maybe later, maybe some other time.
Yeah. Or can I reduce this a little bit so that it gets to be an 8 or a 9 or a 10?
And like you said, which I wrote down, change the habit into something that requires less motivation. I love that.
Yeah.
Right. And again, that's kind of what I was talking about earlier, where if you're feeling, totally frozen by the prospect of doing something, you probably are trying to bite off more than you can chew. Break that shit down, Yeah. So I love that idea. And
PTSD, I like it.
Break that shit down. What is it?
Yeah. BTSD.
Dude.
PTSD.
I'm writing it down. I finally came up with something cool.
You did.
You're always coming up with the cool stuff. I can be cool.
Because you have your thinking hat on, your backwards hat. It makes you cooler.
I feel very cool, yes.
Well, you are.
I'm glad that's coming across.
My mom will watch the video and she'll be like, Justine looks so great with her hat
on. She gives me a big confidence boost. But yeah, I mean, I think that one thing that's been the most helpful, and I mean, Jen and I should just speak for myself, but I read a lot of self-help books. Okay. I mean, it's like, this is just, how I am. And one of the most beneficial practices is really writing down the limiting beliefs. I mean, if you're having trouble doing something, if you really want something and you're having a really tough time, write down what is what is standing in your way? Like, what are your limiting beliefs? And do this practice where you're saying to yourself, is that true? Like, what's really behind that? You know, like, I'm afraid, you know, if I try to go to bed early, I'm going to lose time with my partner at night because of our work, whatever. It's like, get that stuff down on paper. It's not enough just to ruminate about it while you're driving to work. It's just not enough. Like, you need to get it out and write it down. That is my
WTSD. Write that shit down.
Write that shit down. Write that shit down. Oh my God. There's so many.
We're on a roll today.
Oh, dirty mouth.
Yes. All right. So these are, I think that these are all things that you can look to when you're thinking about starting a new habit or assessing your struggles with a new habit, trying to get to the base of it. And then we did have a few simple tips to help with motivation as well. So that other stuff might be a little deep, which I think is very important. And if you don't go there, I don't know how well you'll be successful, but maybe you've gone there and you're still having some struggles. So we wanted to talk about self-celebration. So I have this book called Tiny Habits by BJ Fogg, and I quote it a lot because I love it. And he called celebration the fertilizer for good habits. So, and there are 3 times you can celebrate. You can celebrate when you remember to do something, so you haven't even acted on it yet, but you remembered, oh yeah, I was planning on doing this, while you're doing it, and when you finish. So those are 3 opportunities to do that. So think about something in your life that would cause you to celebrate. So if you're a sports fan, maybe your team won. So what would you do if they won? Would you be like, yes? Would it be yes? Like, whatever it is. Fake high five, because we don't touch people anymore. His story that he brings up, he was going through a tough time. His nephew passed away and a business of his was failing, and he was literally flossing a single tooth was his goal. Like, that was how tiny the habit was. And as he was doing it, he was like, victory, and he like smiled and said victory in the mirror. So
so great. The other thing I love about it is that celebration is coming from you. You're not like that validation, that proof, that trust. You're building that with yourself. You're not waiting to tell your husband about it so then your husband gives you the pat on the back or telling, you know what I mean? It's like, no, like, you celebrate yourself, you know? And it's cool to have that, you know, people notice. That's great. But I just love that idea of like, that I just think that that's important for that building of confidence, you know?
Yeah. And I think sometimes people think they need to reward themselves. Like,
that's not the same thing.
Yeah. So this is celebration, not reward. And then you're associating your habit with positive emotions. And that's part of it too.
Ruby, I swear to God. Very nice. Yeah, I love that idea. We should talk more about that, then bring that into more of our talks. I think it's great. We kind of already talked about awareness and noting. That's a tip. We don't need to get more into that.
We did talk about 5-minute action. Is there something that takes 5 minutes or less that you can do? Gretchen Rubin even says 2 minutes. So she's kind of got like a 2-minute tidying rule. Like, if there's anything that takes less than 2 minutes, whether it's hanging your jacket up or putting your shoes away or washing a dish, if it takes less than 2 minutes, then you do it. So maybe if you were planning on trying to get a yoga workout in, maybe that means you unfold your yoga mat and put it in the living room or whatever room as a reminder that you're going to do that yoga today or anything like that.
Yeah, totally. And I can say that, you know, like 5 years ago, if I had heard that, I would have thought that was so stupid.
Yeah.
I would have thought like, ugh, no, that's just like this pithy, like, kind of like, I don't know, what do you call, but it's like just easily marketable, like, oh, the 2 minute, like, ugh. Right. But like, as somebody who my way failed for so long that finally I was like, well, I guess I'll try this stupid way that's definitely not going to work. It does.
Yeah, absolutely. I think when we see other people having success, we forget that it was like a piling on of little tiny things. So it wasn't
many.
Yes, yeah. So starting, anything that moves you forward and helps you to act better or be better, every small it is important to do and to celebrate it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. I think this was
You had a great talk.
Nice job, me.
And then motivation wise, we also talked about having an accountability partner. I've had times where I've talked to friends and we've kind of like made agreements to work on things. When it comes to all these online workouts, you might not be able to actually physically meet with your workout buddy, but you guys could get on a phone or a Zoom call and agree to do a workout virtually together. Mm-hmm. And actually now people can start working out outside together too if they want.
Yeah, totally. Don't go at it alone, and I think that's not one of our tips, but I just kind of thought about it is, oftentimes we just kind of hold all inside. Well, I wanted this thing. It's kind of like, you don't want to tell anyone. Maybe you think people are going to think it's stupid or you know what I mean? We just kind of hold it in, but it's like, put it out there, man. Like get it out there. You got to talk about it and get it out there and surrounding yourself with people who are either doing the things that you want to be doing or also want to do the right can be helpful as well. You don't have to get like a new friend group, but
yeah, absolutely. And if somebody maybe looks like they're further along the path than you are, looking to them for guidance and cheering them on instead of being like, she's just doing this and she's lost all this weight and yada yada, like how can you support that person? Reach out to them because that maybe they'll have some little tip for what worked for them, like I can see that you've been working really hard on your fitness, like what's worked for you, and we know, like, and I've done this even if on the inside I've been like jealous and bitter, I've reached out to people anyway and it just made me feel better and it makes that person
great practice.
Maybe that you were jealous of, like, become a human again. So you could do that. And then the other thing I wanted to say too, and this may sound like we're personal trainers and we're just trying to get your business, but it does
give me all your money.
It does help to hire a coach. I found this when I was trying to play the ukulele. My brother was able to teach himself on YouTube and I just couldn't do it. And I ended up hiring a music teacher and he helped me. And I ended up playing. I haven't since been playing, but I ended up like learning how to play it because I had a coach, a teacher, and that helped me. So if you're able to do that financially, it's a huge help.
Yeah, I mean, I can speak to that just around like my, healing my relationship with food. I mean, I read a million books about it. I really tried years and years of trying just on my own. And then like within, just like not even a half a year of like having a therapist who does coach me. Like we're doing a lot of coaching. It's not just me it's not talk therapy. Like she gives me homework and it's more of a coaching relationship that we have. And it's been like leaps and bounds, to have that person that I'm touching base with. We only meet about every 2 weeks, but we touch base, we work things out together. And then she gives me very, we come up with what I want to do. It's not just her telling me what to do. It's like, we come up with a plan together and then I try to do that thing. And before I see her the next time, and it's just very simple. It's not rocket science, but there is something about the accountability and to be honest, I've always been wary of like suggesting workout buddies because like no offense to any of my friends or any of your friends or whatever, but like most people are like kind of flaky and not because they're bad people, but like people have lives. It's like, if you choose someone, all right, we're going to work out every morning. And then like that person's kid is having like, violent diarrhea, right? It's like, So to me, having a professional that you're being held accountable by is much more, I just think it's a little bit more reliable as far as, that's just my opinion.
Yeah. No, I mean, I've seen the workout buddy thing work at the gym, but it does have to be the right person.
It has to be the right person. Yeah.
I have seen it not work too.
Yeah, totally.
All right. Cool. Well, that was just like a
I think that was good.
Okay.
I'm gonna do the same thing that we did though with the calorie stuff. I'll put some of this into some a little more organized,
cool,
pretty square visuals, and I'll post some stuff so that you know, people can't watch this, or if you watched it and you're like, that was a lot of words.
Yes, we could break it down. We'll break it down for you.
Break that shit down.
PTSD. That's another B though. So you can't. Yeah. All right. Never mind. That was
break that shit down.
Write that shit
Write
down.
that shit down. Anyway, I'll keep working on this. This is a whole new brand new thing.
Yeah.
All right, Jen. Have
right.
a good rest of the day. Don't forget to post this.
Yes, I'll do that.
All right. Bye.
Bye.